Are you ready to learn about the property market? Then you're in the right place. This is Everything Property by Pivotal Homes, where we connect Australia's best developers, agents, home buyer specialists, wealth creation experts, and property advisors to the people of Australia. Broadcasted from Whitehorse Studios on the Gold Coast. And now, here are your hosts, Hayden Ashton and Tom Egan.
G'day listeners and viewers right across the country. Welcome to Everything Property by Pivotal Homes, where we connect Australia's best developers, agents, first home buyer specialists, wealth creation experts, and all-round property advisors to the people of Australia. Now, today's guests have helped hundreds of first home buyers purchase their first homes right across Australia. With almost 2 decades of collective experience in the market, these gentlemen have established themselves as one of Australia's leading first home buyer specialist companies. With real estate running through their veins, they have built a business based on having an ethical, transparent and smart approach. They are two peas in a pod. Adam Standage, Reece Purcell from Quit Renting Queensland. Welcome to the show, boys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, I forgot to mention,
Afternoon, gents.
only deal with the best builders. I'll write that in there for next time. Or do you? You tell us.
Which one?
Hey, boys, thank you so much for joining us on Everything Property, and really appreciate you guys coming in to dissect, to discuss, to talk about everything in that, or not just in the first home buyer space, the property space in general, but talk about what the first home buyer market is doing at the moment, because as we know, there's so much happening in that space, and what an exciting time to be in the marketplace as a potential first home buyer, or any buyer for that matter, but in particular the sort of clientele that you guys help. But before we get into all the nuts and bolts of that, what we really like to do is provide the people listening and watching across Spotify and YouTube just context as to how you guys got into the property game individually, but also the reasoning behind QRQ, Quit Renting Queensland, and what led you to see that gap in the market to help people purchase their first home.
Well, I went backwards getting into the market. I was born in New South Wales in Sydney, moved to Ballina, then went Ballina to Brizzy when I was 18 to play rugby league, then started an electrical apprenticeship. Realised that it wasn't really for me, then went into, a mate approached me to get into residential real estate, so we started a residential real estate business from the ground up.
Yeah, right.
Not the smartest thing probably to do, being independent against obviously your big mobs like Place, LJ Hooker and such. So went pretty well. Took us a while to get going, obviously, like anything, and then we shut the doors on it and I parted ways with it. Went overseas, come back again, and got back into a job full time doing a bit of business relations for a company, and then got a phone call from Adam Standage, who we grew up together. Funny enough, we've been friends for about probably 25 years. A while now, so and that's how we kind of started Quit Renting Queensland about 14, 15 months ago now. So,
yeah, nice.
Yeah,
and I bet you've regretted that phone call ever since.
Yeah, I didn't have the number saved. So.
Yeah, I was like, sorry.
And then he moves over here. You just can't get away from it.
No, but yeah, so obviously went the back road to get here, but all the experience and the stuff that I've learned along the way, obviously put all that energy into Quit Renting, and it's been quite successful, you could say, for the probably past 14 months.
For sure.
So
yeah, for sure.
What about you, Adam?
So I grew up with Reece in.
We have to do everything for him, this fella.
Grew up with Reece in the Northern Rivers. We friends from school, and met my wife in 2008. Moved to Perth for 12 years, and went.
Why'd you go there? Why'd you move there? When
did I move to Perth?
No, what made you? What caused you to move over there?
So I met my wife in the Northern Rivers, and she was from WA,
right.
and we compromised and packed up and went to WA.
Sounds like a compromise.
For 12 years.
get here now.
So I went there for 12 years, and she helped me get into the industry, in the house and land industry in WA.
Yeah, right.
Did just over 11 years in that, and selling house and land for a few different building companies over the course of my career. Kind of got a bit. Got a bit over it, doing the same thing, looking at getting to the market.
Yeah.
This is the house, this is the land, and the same suburbs over and over again. Wanted to come back, or I guess no matter where you're from, you want to go. You want to head
home's home, yeah.
Somewhat. So convinced her to consider letting us come over here, and shacked up with Reece and flew over here once a month and doing bits and pieces like that. And then the business, I guess, kicked off about, as Reece said, 14 months ago, and packed up the family and moved to Brizzy.
And so let's talk about quit renting Queensland. So how did that come to be? Because obviously, as we know in real estate, there's so many different avenues. There's investment, there's buyers agents, there's traditional real estate. What made you guys focus on I suppose attacking that niche in relation to getting people into their first homes?
Well, there's so many first home buyers, and there's not that many people, I guess, or groups or companies like us that are there to educate them on from initially, thinking about getting into the market or thinking about escaping the rent trap and actually what it takes to get involved and to get into the market. So I think that's where quit renting, I guess, evolved from there, didn't it?
Well, I guess you're seeing buyers from a builder's point of view, but they've already made the decision they're buying a home. At QRQ, it's more like, well, we're finding, potential rent, people that are actually renting homes that haven't even thought about owning where this is possible.
And that's our complete target market. So we don't chase the people that are pre-approved, that have got a block of land, that are looking at building the Taj Mahal. We target the renters that are stuck renting year after year after year, that have little to no deposit, and we help educate them on how to improve themselves in terms of getting out of the rent market and into becoming homeowners.
Yeah, and the good point Adam makes there is that half the people don't know that it's possible.
Possible, yeah.
And that's the biggest thing about it is when you sit down with and we've seen thousands of situations, and I think if you immerse yourself into their situation and fully understand where they are at in terms of where they're at with finance and stuff like that, you can quite basically make them understand that it is possible and they can achieve it, especially now with interest rates and the way that stands.
And the incentives.
Correct. They're getting a really big jump start into getting into the property market. So
well, it's hard when you go into these, your potential buyer's home, or these clients that are looking at buying, wanting education, and no one in their family's ever owned property, and you're trying to let them know at 25 or 20 that you can buy your own home with your partner right now, and that's possible. You're like, it's not. And unfortunately, half the time they cancel before you even get there because they're too scared. Their partner goes, what? You get this phone call, my partner doesn't think I can do it. I'm like, you guys can do it, trust me. I'll come there and see both of you. Let me show you how. Yeah. And how amazing is going from, the partner saying, I've seen this article, and there's no way it's possible. You go from seeing them to the day you're standing on settlement, shaking the hand going, you just bought your first block of land, and the tears start rolling. There's not much that can, can get you up in the morning than that.
It's an amazing feeling, especially.
What do you mean you can't get up in the morning? Is that what he said?
There's not much more that want to get you out of the bed than to do that. I mean, you try and do the right thing.
No, but that Tom makes a good point, because we come from a first home buyer background, as you know, and what we used to find is that they have that limiting belief because their parents have never bought a house, or they're in a lower demographic or whatever. They think, well, if my parents haven't been able to do it in 50 years, how can I do this? Yeah, exactly right.
People around them as well, getting in their ears saying, I did it this way. This is how you should do it. But it's changed so much over the decades.
My mum tried to talk me out of it. Mum's like, honey, it's a lot of debt. I don't think you should do it. And it's like, well, you guys have nothing. I've just got to do the opposite. That's how I winged it at 17, because I was saving, and I bought a block at 17 and, saved for that then to build at 18. And then I was just like, no, I've got to do something different. And that was the catalyst for me.
I think on what you're saying there, Hayden, is that the parents have never owned, or it's the complete opposite end of the scale, right? Where the parents may live in a particular suburb or a particular area, and the first home buyers, so the children want to outdo the mum and dad, or mum and dad live here, so I guess I want to buy here for my first home as well. And you've really got to, I think our biggest battle is always realigning their expectations and what actually is reality in terms of getting into the market. Yes, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, your mum and dad may live here, but they didn't start here.
That's right.
Or if they did, it was probably $80,000 or $60,000.
Yeah. Or they were gifted, helped along the way or whatnot.
It's always realigning their expectations on what the steps to take in terms of to get into to where mum and dad are.
And certainly, that's a really, really big point, because a lot of people, especially, I used to find it particularly whereby if their family hadn't really come from much, was they don't understand the power of property and getting on the market and the other avenues and opportunities that can lead from that, with capital growth and all that sort of stuff. It's that whole first home versus forever home thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Massive.
Sorry,
you go. No.
Oh, and I was just going to, for one of the first times in a long time, we can actually show clients that their mortgage repayments are actually cheaper than what they're paying in rent. And it's quite scary where you go out to these, to meet these customers and show them the process of how to get in the market, and you actually, once you break it down, and show them what it is going to cost per week, it's actually cheaper than what
Yeah.
they're paying in rent. And it's just unheard of. It's crazy.
And it's phenomenal. Like no,
If that doesn't get you over the line, what
What else
Oh,
is
what,
going to
what
do
that's
that?
well, like,
You just compare it to what they're paying in rent.
and then the government
Work
on
it
top
out
of that
fine.
goes, here's the deposit, massive
And
deposit
everything else,
assistance.
yeah.
It's insane.
Yeah, it is. This year's been crazy for especially first home buyers now, with a home builder being introduced and stuff like that. But like Adam was saying, like I think the biggest thing is that they get caught in this 30 years,
Yeah.
being locked in for 30 years. And realistically, how are they going to live in that house for the same house for 30 years?
Yeah.
Maybe
really.
not.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like managing their expectations and getting to a point where, hey, you've just got to get in.
Yeah,
And then
and,
once you're
that's
in-
those steps to follow, like where you guys are experienced, where a builder's just looking at, let's say on your side for the past 11 years, we're just looking at building this house, that's it. They come through, where on this other side of things, you can educate them on more than just building a home.
Yeah.
Here's a roadmap of other options. Should you actually spend 600 or 400? You shouldn't go, because you're not going to end up living there for 30 years.
That's right.
So why spend the extra 200K out there if you're not going to live there for 30 years? Chances are you'll probably spend 10, use the equity to then build again, or sell that and kick on, or use that as an investment property a lot of the time.
Well-
And that's what you guys have the power to do. The education, on that roadmap, especially young 20-year-olds.
Yeah, we educate them saying, it's targeted as an investment home. Try and pull all your emotion out of your first home. Get in the market just as and treat it as an investment, treat it as a rental, live in it like a rental, and then obviously grow from there. And you're better off riding the storm versus always chasing it.
Yeah.
Trying to get into the market. Better off just getting in and riding the storm from there, and you should be right.
Yeah, it's amazing because like properties in like Australians' fabric. Like everyone's an expert, everyone loves it, everyone has an opinion. But what I see all too often is that people try and go it alone. Like they go to the dentist, or it's like going to someone to get a tooth pulled out. You'd go to a dentist, right? But people in Australia seem to be too proud, almost, or some people anyway, seem to be too proud of getting.
It's human nature,
Isn't
isn't
it?
it? Like everyone's lived in their own home
Yeah.
one way or another, regardless if you've rented it or owned it. So I think, they've got like a little bit of pride saying, nah, I know how a house works. I
Yeah,
know the
that's right.
dynamics of how it should work as a whole. So why are you going to tell me how to do
Yeah,
it? So
but that's, believe it, like if you go to internationally, like that's not a thing. Like in America and all that, they always consult a professional before buying any house. They don't just go out and pick something like we do here in Australia. But particularly in your first home, like that may be well and good if you're an experienced investor or you've done it several times. But when you're entering the market in the first place, it really is a make or break scenario, right? You are, you're probably making the single biggest commitment of your life to date, or I'm sure you probably would be.
correct.
And to have the experience and sitting there and done it over hundreds of clients, it's probably more like thousands, I'd imagine, in real life stats, would make a lot of difference.
For sure.
Massively.
Difference between good decisions and bad decisions.
Yeah, and it's all relevant to their actual, their situation as well. I mean, like Tommy was saying before, if they can spend 600, is it necessary to spend 600?
Yeah.
Maybe not. So it all comes down to obviously their individual situation and what they can afford and what's projected over the next 5 years, for example. So
Yeah, and you mentioned, you touched on it there, Adam, about trying to take the emotion out of it. Must be very hard to try and, because it is such an emotional thing when you're buying, particularly an owner-occupier based home. It must be quite one of the challenging parts of your job to try and get clients to see it through that set of eyes.
Definitely is. I think with the builder grants and the builder bonuses, the stamp duty exemptions, the lender's mortgage exemptions, and everything that's going on at the moment, I think it's made it easier than ever to do it at the moment. To say, look, Mr. and Mrs. Client, this is the best road forward. This time last year and this time next year, you don't have these opportunities to be able to get in the market. Use this as an investment property. Use all these grants as we've all paid plenty of tax over the time. Let's use these grants to benefit you, make your money work for you, instead of you working for your money, and get in and better yourself for the future.
And so let's talk through the grants, because you guys are seeing it, breathing it every day. What's currently available out there in the marketplace in terms of grants and incentives?
you've obviously got first home buyers grant, which everyone knows, 15,000. You've got your home builder, 25,000, which the government's announced won't be extended past December 31st. You've got your 5K regional grant, which is obviously if you build in regional Queensland, you'll get $5,000 as well. You've got obviously your first home loan deposit scheme,
Mm-hmm.
which is obviously exempt of lenders' mortgage insurance and stamp duty for that matter as well. So
Which has just been increased in price as well, which is great.
good, yeah.
Because there's not many areas in Brisbane now that are under, 475.
Yeah,
so
so-
that's good.
It was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard,
I don't know how many
It's
deals we
funny,
did on that one.
You think like you think you pick up, you're like, who the fuck is writing the rules to this? Some of this shit that comes out, are they living and breathing it? They're not saying 475 unless you want to be at, Mackay or something like that. It's not going to do anything for you.
Some people do though.
I know, I'm not saying that in any bad way. No, I'm just saying but it regional it works well. But for people who want to be within,
We
You know.
found
Yeah.
even regional really hard at the 400 cap
yeah,
with your Mackays or your Toowoomba's and
Because they're 450s most of the places.
yeah,
Yeah.
Rockhamptons and things like that. We found it really tough as well.
Mm.
So we're glad there's another 10,000 allocations. We did quite a lot with it. Helped out a lot of clients to save obviously that money on the lender's mortgage insurance.
yeah,
It,
nice.
it nearly had to be though. Like if you have a look at Brisbane for that matter, north or south corridors, northern Gold Coast, you're done.
Done.
You're done.
Oh,
There's
you-
no,
it's
there's no,
like
you've got
50
no
minimum, you know?
exactly
Yeah.
right. There's no chance you're going to get anywhere. And if you're going to bring out these incentives, like your first home loan deposit scheme, you've nearly got to make it relevant to help people
Yeah,
in a
that's
way,
right.
right? And I just find sometimes it's good that they've kind of extended it to that price, that higher price, because at 475, you said you literally can't. Ipswich,
Yeah.
you're struggling to get a decent sized block anywhere around Ipswich, for that matter. Springfield, not
No
a chance. Pallara, not a chance. Anywhere on the north, you're looking.
You got your Caboolture, that's
Caboolture,
it.
that's
Burpengari's now priced out.
Yeah.
Morayfield's on the way up as well. So,
Yeah.
some people don't really want to have to go to live to those areas. So it's good that they've done that. But yeah, 475 is a struggle.
They've
isn't
got
it?
to have that real world application. It's all
Who's
well
doing
and
it?
good. It's like the home builder grant. It's the 3-month thing from a builder's standpoint. It certainly has its challenges, doable, but certainly has its challenges. And if you just think that, it would save a whole heap of stress from everyone if this was 6 months. What's the difference going to be really? What's the difference going to make? Not much.
No.
For us, it's been a huge benefit to us in our obviously starting out our business 14 odd months ago. It's really helped obviously our business skyrocket and put us on the map. But I'm also on the same token excited to see the end of it because it brings back the clients. It takes the pressure selling out.
Yeah.
It takes the rush
And you have buyers missing out.
Hey,
You've got good buyers missing out on areas where there's no availability.
Mhm.
You've got good clients ready to go, and they're not going to compromise for areas further out when they can afford something closer. The spot that they want to live in. So they're just on hold. Essentially, you guys would have guys in the pipeline like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure we do.
I think we still want the first home buyers grants. We still want the no stamp duty and the no lender's mortgage insurance. I think those three are a huge key and a huge help to first home buyers. The actual 25,000 building boosters, it helps, but sometimes it's a real hindrance.
It sounds
as
like,
well.
I'm sure you guys get it, but you almost have to do the take it away clause unintentionally. It's like, look, I know I'm going to sound cliche, but if you don't buy this today, it's not going to be available. And it's like typical
Once in a
salesman.
lifetime.
yeah,
You know
that's
what you
right.
sound
yeah.
And I think-
exactly.
I think with the 25 grand as well, I noticed is people expected more. They wanted more in reality. Like just the perception of people's mind change where when, dealing with clients coming in and out, all of a sudden their expectations went higher. It's like it's only 25 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not, just on the upgrades or what they thought they could buy. We can go shopping now because it's funds complete. No, you still need your finance together. You still need the professionals
You
to
need
help
5%. It's not going to be there for you to use.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing we found
I
as well.
think that's what you guys would be suffering with, right? Expectations would have
And
changed.
hard, and using the 25 grand, like you said before, obviously people want variations and changes, and you've got to kind of pull that all back and be like, look, guys, take this away 6 months ago and it wasn't here. What would you be doing? Would you be doing this, or is it just because of this that you're pursuing it? So it is like, Adam, you've got to manage these expectations and kind of make them understand that this is probably going to be here till December 31st, so use it wisely while you can. If it's an opportunity to get into the market and put you in a better position, 100%.
And then land sells and then rego's not till next year. You just miss buying that opportunity anyway.
Yeah.
And that's what happens to them. And we've seen buyers come and then not make the decision, come back a month later. It's like, well, that area is
Done. You've got to go
Out of the
north.
price
You've got
point,
to go
yeah.
north. Yep.
And they I see over capitalizing too. Like they just get caught up in that emotion and they just think, well, I do want the 40 mil stone, or I want, which is all well and good, but if you can't afford it, you can't afford it. Like you're better off investing that in terms of taking off your mortgage or giving you a buffer or whatever than capitalizing on marble tiles or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
The one thing we've noticed as well is the builder bonus that's currently active is that clients were taking out their superannuation. So prior to sending through an inquiry to us, they were taking out the superannuation in June, July, August, and then they wanted to get in the market with all these grants, obviously the 25,000 and so what. But then once you go to get ready for finance, you've got to backdate their bank statements, and they've got the superannuation there from hardship.
Yeah.
And then they're trying to get in the market, and we're finding that's really hard as well to show clients that, yeah, you've got now 30, 40, 50, 60 grand in the bank in some aspect, but 20 grand of it was from your super, and we can't use it as genuine savings still.
Yeah.
So although you got all the grants, you still have to show, as Reece was saying, you still have to show your 5% genuine savings.
And look, it's hard because a lot of time you build, it's not something normally that you would just wake up one day and be like, well, I'm going to buy a house today. But that's exactly what's happened on the back of this home. But normally it's a preparation. You start to save your money, you get your bank account, you read the Barefoot Investor, whatever it is, and you get yourself ready to be able to go and speak to someone like yourself. But June 8th, this got released, and then people got up on June 9th and were like, well, let's do it. Here we go. And they have, like you see, they didn't have the savings or the bank account, transactions cleaned up, and they still had sports bet on there and Uber Eats and all that sort of stuff.
Exactly, 100%.
Happy hand. No, just kidding. Now, talk us through the process of buying a home, because for people out there watching, obviously you don't know it until you've done it. So what is the general process like dealing with QRQ and going through the steps to buy a house?
Shoot away.
Okay, so I guess generally they'll send through obviously an inquiry to us through our channels of marketing, whether it's our online platforms or referrals and so what. We'll send through an inquiry. We'll go through the full finance qualification. So it's a 3-step process. Being finance is the most important part of the finance. Without finance, obviously, it's pretty hard to get in the market. Yeah. So we go through that quite in depth in terms of the finance aspect. Then we look at some land options in terms of where their finance is going to, I guess, push them with land, whether it's in an area that they want to live in or an area that they're currently living in. And then we'll go through the whole house aspect as well.
And so with the finance, obviously, that's going to allow you to understand what they can actually afford, because it's all good and well wanting to buy a house, but having the financial ability and what they call borrowing capacity is a completely different thing. Talk us through the finance market at the moment. Is it tough out there in the finance space? Is it
Yeah, it's always pretty tough, I think, because everyone's situation is always different. So, back to what Adam was saying before, finance being the most important. You've got to have a good finance broker. Yeah, there's no two ways about it. If you don't, you get found out, and especially now in this market that we're currently in, with it being so aggressive and developers obviously holding a little bit of control again, and what they do with those kind of things is they just don't take these 20, they take 21 days, but how, it generally would work is it's a little bit longer sometimes with how sometimes we approach it in terms of finance. So, there's definitely good finance products out there at the moment. Obviously, a few banks have come out more recently and said that you can use a home builder towards a deposit. So, obviously, that spices things up again leading into December 31st for the home builder. But there's definitely good products. Obviously, your Westpacs and your Bank Wests are going to suit our market because of low deposit stuff, using your rent as gen savings and stuff like that. So, but yeah, you've got to stay relevant to what's going on. That's why having a good broker in your corner is always a massive positive.
I think you're disadvantaged if you go direct to a bank in our space.
You're 10 steps behind.
You're 10 steps behind.
Yep.
You have the
Maybe
options
the
that you've got
1980s.
available and the skills that your broker can do is, if you're going direct to a banker, you already lost the battle nearly in my eyes. The things that we've got to deal with on valuation point of view, but all the lending options for clients are so flexible.
And when our parents were buying home, they would have, in the, for us, late 80s, our parents were buying their first homes. They would have gone down to their local branch, had a coffee with the branch manager who they knew from soccer or something like that.
My dad's dad banked with him. My dad's dad banked with him. Kenneth Joyce Murray, dad's dad.
My next door neighbour did too.
And they'd go through the motions of getting themselves into the market, and the interest rates in the late 80s were 17%, 20% deposit, and things like that. And those times have completely changed. It's completely the other end of the scale now. Maybe 2% deposits.
And even when people have, through our experience, when we've talked to people and they've gone into the bank and talked, CBA, for example, and they've come back and said, we need 10%, we need 15%. We're like, that's not necessarily true. Why don't we just why don't you run through us and just see what we're looking at for that matter. And that's the best thing about a broker is they keep the banks competing against each other.
Yeah.
So that's why you'll find different rates across the whole market for that matter as well. So, having a good broker is key for anyone's situation who wants to get into property.
Yeah. And there's options available at the bank that sometimes they don't know they're offering. And
Correct.
the broker's aware
And the
of
broker
how many
has to
times
update the bank going, hey, you guys are actually offering this, and this is how you get this.
their
this
policies
one
have
through.
changed. This is what's available. They're like, hey, well, that person didn't know that new update. So it's crazy how those small things can all of a sudden you're still getting the loan through the same bank that they said they couldn't. So
Change the whole thing, yeah.
And you brought up a great point, Reece. A lot of people historically think that 10 or 20% deposit is a necessary part of buying a house, but it's just not the case. Certainly not the case.
Not anymore, no.
All clients want to wait to save, but then you break down, okay, how long is it going to take you to save 20% to avoid LMI? Is that going to take you 10 years? What's the prices of that land going up in that price? So you're disadvantaged really if you're trying to save the 20% if it takes you
Plus
long time.
Yeah, plus the money you've wasted in rent over the
In rent,
two
correct,
years.
yeah.
So you work out these couple of foundations of capital growth and obviously them spending money on rent. Work out that 20% you're trying, because some parents will say, wait till you save 20% and buy a house. It's like, okay, let's look at that option. How long is that going to take? Okay, it's 10 years. Okay, you're actually at a massive loss if you go down that road.
Yeah, the parents sometimes
That's what
are
you've wasted.
doing their kids a disservice by
Yeah, because the opportunities. But when you sit with the parents, I
tell.
always used to love when clients' parents would want to come and sit in or join the meeting. And then I'd start right back at square one where the clients were first educated. I'm now educating the family member. Going through it and they go, geez, I wish this was around when I was young. Every time I'd switch and go, okay, this is a massive opportunity. And they become supportive of what they're actually about to go through.
Yeah, and I guess that's why the grants are so important, especially now, because 40 grand up front, it's a massive jump start, especially on the market for that matter. Brisbane history being 6%. 6% on any $500,000 purchase is 30 grand per year. So, you jump start the market. So I think that's the biggest advantage of having these grants available for first home buyers.
Yeah.
And particularly in Queensland, I mean, you guys just focus on Queensland, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, so at the moment anyway, I'm sure there's some
For
sort
now.
of...
Yeah, quit renting Queensland.
But like in terms of like the home building, the incentives, like even if you look at just the state incentive of $15,000 comparable to the housing affordability, it's such a good boost, whereas Sydney, Melbourne is the $25,000 going to make that much of a difference? Probably not, but places like Queensland, maybe Perth the same, in where by 400 to 500K is where a lot of the stuff's going to sit. It's 5%.
Yeah, and you're sitting, that kind of price point, you're sitting like at worst 30, 35Ks from the city. So we are very lucky to be in Queensland. I think that's why a lot of people are starting to realise it and starting to relocate. So I think, having that price point, especially in, Brisbane for that matter, it does make it massive.
Phenomenal,
yeah.
And so you're doing, you guys are educating them on the finance. You're educating them on the land to make the best decision and save them a lot of money, which we'll go into, and then the build. So just on the land point of view, I guess they go out and secure a block at the land sales office. They don't know if that's the best block in the development. They don't know what they're looking out for.
They don't know the building guidelines.
What they want. They get a 14 metre wide design offline and they go and get a 10 metre frontage block and say, that's the house I want.
Yep.
That doesn't go together. So seeing a professional like you that are educating them on that, then you're educating them on the land and the build to go, well, this is what you wanted, this is what we need to look for. I just know on a land point of view, how often can you go to an estate or a suburb that they want to buy in, they go on an estate where they purchased, they probably paid an extra 10, 15 grand they didn't need to. There's another 4 estates in the same suburb that we can compare, you guys are comparing to, where normally a first home buyer goes, it's enough just trying to take in buying one block and understanding what that block has, does it have slope, what's the setbacks, all these things that we're looking for. Yet down the road, there's a block 10, 15 grand cheaper that you can buy sometimes because it's available or it's fallen over and you guys have access to it where the buyer normally wouldn't. So there's
a lot more
things.
to it. Yeah, it's not just building a house for that matter.
So just there, straight off the bat, you can save them a lot of money on the land side of things. And then that goes into on the build side of things where, once again, that goes into so much detail that you guys obviously educate them on.
And that's why I think, majority of people go to the display villages and these people that sit in the display units, I'm not saying that they don't necessarily give the best advice, but they don't fully understand the situation or the client situation for that matter. So, because they don't obviously do their finance up front, so they'll go down to the display village for that matter, and I'll tell them that, secure this block or secure that before doing anything else, and it's sometimes not going to work out the best. And we've heard horror stories from experience with clients that we've dealt with and helped into the market. So, educating, like you said, and getting into them, getting in front of them first, and going through the finance, and then going through your step-by-step process is key.
Yeah.
And a lot of, because it is their first time, there's obviously so much inexperience when it comes to. Sounds like we're bagging out first time buyers, but we're not. It's only coming from a place of I suppose a good place, but a lot of people get sucked into some, I suppose, deceitful marketing tactics that are out there to prey on inexperienced
the
purchases. Yeah, correct.
sure.
And so you mentioned the display villages, and again, it's two different models, but they walk into these beautiful display homes, and they're beautiful houses, and they're great builders and whatnot, but
Taj Mahal.
yeah, exactly right. You're walking through this thing, you're like, wow, this is fit for, Kate and William or whatever, and then they're going to sign contracts, and it's like, no floor coverings or allowances for, and that's where a lot of people get caught up by trying to do it alone, because there's the whole turnkey aspect of things.
Yeah.
You guys might want to touch on that, because I'm sure that would come up a lot for you guys.
The realestate.com ads where it's like, but that's because they're doing their research though. So they're doing their research, and that's what you want them to do. And then you guys prove, well, that's actually not what, because their prices are different. Okay, this guy looks really good. And that's where you guys can break down that difference.
I've worked in the display village sector, coming from WA. So, you sit in display village for 5 days a week, from 9 till 5 or whatever the case may be, and you wait for the odd tumbleweed to come through and inquire about a house and how much is this one, and this one, X price. But if you're looking at getting into the market as a first time buyer, you're looking more at this design instead. But what we find with the display villages, it actually works for us, the display homes, because we're obviously not in that space, we're in the wholesale. But the first home buyers will go through these display villages, spend a whole day getting sunburnt in these villages and going around looking at all these beautiful 2-story homes, and then they'll come to us and go, we want to get in the market. But what we find with the display home model is that they'll go through the display home, and the consultant there will be, have you got yourself a block of land, or have you got yourself a pre-approval? Then the client has to go back out into the market and then start that process by looking at realestate.com, inquiring with us, I guess, then at that stage, and then we help them into the market, because there's no one out there to help really hold their hand from thinking about it to getting them to key handover, and that's what we try and strive our model around. Is
and not being biased. We're not biased to that builder. We're open to all builders, but let's look at what is the best opportunity for you.
Like working with a broker, that broker's not biased to any one particular lender. They've got 30 or 40 different banks and lenders on their panel, and same with us as Quit Running Queensland. We've got a few different building companies that we work with that specialise in
Come again?
Lego
cut
building.
Cut.
Specialise in different markets and different products. I guess. When we get the customer, we will tailor make the package to suit the customer with the right builder or the right product.
You're only as good as the people around you as well, so that's why you've got to, in terms of having a panel of builders, we're lucky in that sense to be able to have those options for our clients as well. So, but in saying that, there's a lot of builders out there, so you've got to work out very quickly who to obviously build with and who not to.
Let's go through that. So what goes into picking the right builder? What are you guys looking at? Because as you said, a lot of builders out there. There's only a handful of good ones. What are you looking at to try and ensure that?
Is this where you step in, Hayden, and just tell
I'll
us?
take it from here. I know.
Right on cue.
There's many, you can tell your difference between products, for that matter. You can tell your difference between good builds personally and what aren't so good builds, you should say. So I guess it comes down to, obviously, you've got to have a good relationship with the people that you work with in terms of the builders, and I think that helps massively. Obviously, being open to areas. Different builders have different strengths in different areas, and there's obviously different price points for different builders as well. So I think when you understand what your client's looking for, and you get really, kind of immersed into their situation, you can kind of tell what build's going to suit the client for that matter. And different specs for different builders again, but obviously, we worked out very quickly who to work with and who not to, from, obviously doing rights and wrongs through clients, and you get good feedback from certain clients, and we're lucky enough to obviously work that out very quickly.
And there's so much, we're so lucky that there's so much information available, not just to us, but also to your clients. So, if you start to, tell porkies or lead people down the garden path and you know, talk nonsense to them. They can, within the click
That's
of a few
it,
buttons,
yeah.
they've got the truth at their fingertips. So
Yeah.
It's all accessible.
yeah, exactly
Everything's
right.
online. You know, they can just do their history.
Which
checks.
is a good thing. I think it's a great thing that you can't hide if you're doing the wrong thing anymore.
100%.
Like just as a builder, you can go to their reports. You can go not just reviews, but you can actually check on their, what their actually effective work is, if they're getting heaps of issues or not.
Yeah.
So, I think it's a great thing because years ago it was just word of mouth, so you didn't know if they were all bad or not. You just nice.
Yeah. And being
Went down that road.
in some retrospect, we're an unregulated industry in a way. The building, as I guess we call us consultants, as building consultants, we're kind of like an unregulated industry in that sense of things. We find that obviously together with over 20 years experience combined, that we find that they can go down to talk to somebody at a display village or talk to somebody online, and you don't know the experience that person's got, whether they're fresh out of school or fresh out of jail for that matter.
Yeah.
And they can be taking, passing the client passing over $500,000 for their first home, which is the biggest financial commitment of their life. You want to make sure that you're doing the right thing, and I think we've got the proof in the pudding with our reviews and our clients and our experience.
Yeah, phenomenal. And so, back to that turnkey thing, a lot of clients just get brought undone. And we've had it come all the time. I think, Tom, you had one the other day whereby she's halfway through a slab preparation and she's hit rock or something like that.
Yeah.
Excuse me, got a sneeze.
You're right.
That old chestnut, eh? With relation to the turnkey stuff, because banks just won't lend on it either. So they'll find themselves, they'll go through the estate, they'll pick their supposed block of land, they'll get all excited because they've just gone through the Taj Mahal, and they'll give the contract to the bank, and often the bank is the one saying, oh, well, turf's not included, but it can add up to quickly tens and tens and tens, particularly if you got foundation issues, hundreds of thousands of dollars if you don't go to the right builder or the right professional to guide you through it.
And we had it actually with our client a couple of years ago. We had one of our clients come back and the bank actually said the fencing and the turfing is not included, so we're going to go get our own quote, and you'll shortfall those funds you have to come up with for the loan. They just didn't read one of the specs. It was there.
Yeah.
But there was a question, and the client would have to cover the shortfall of whatever that quote was.
They're costly, especially if you get to the end of the house and you miss it all, and then all of a sudden you've got half a fence or no turf.
Yeah,
we've all been there. I mean, that
was
me at 18.
I was waiting for the story to come out.
Everyone's heard it on the show.
That's between your retail and your wholesale that we do. Is obviously, we provide a full turnkey product. So when the client puts down their initial expression of interest deposit and they sign on the dotted line, that's when the price is fixed. So when you go out to site and they hit rock or they hit clay or whatever the case may be, we're not passing that variation onto the client. And I'm from the retail space in WA, so it's pretty rough.
Yeah, it does happen, right? People are like, oh, that won't happen to me. What are the chances?
Yeah, and it's like, do you have an extra 15 grand spare as a first home buyer just in case? A lot of the time, no, they don't. They're trying to get into the market. So a turnkey fixed price contract is really what they're needing, because coming to them at slab stage with 10, 15 grand bill, a lot of them don't have that.
Yep.
And that's what they need. And that's what, even if you're going down that retail space, ask them to include everything. Ask them to fix the site costs, not an allowance of 5 grand or a price on application. We just want, if you're going to go down that route, make sure they tie it up with the full amount included.
Yeah, and as a first home buyer, who's to think that that's not going to be included in the house anyway?
Yeah.
You
just have that.
They're naive.
That's exactly right. You just think my house is going to be built, so that's the whole house.
Yeah. But back to my story, I seen allowance in there and I was just like, cool, they've allowed for that to be there.
Yeah.
Didn't know that I wasn't getting it. So
they're tricky. Going back to what you said, how they market things and asterisks here and all that kind of stuff. You've got to be very wary as a first home buyer looking to what you're going to obviously build or what you're going to purchase, because there's certain things that they do that you'll miss, and then obviously you'll be out of pocket.
Well, and it might be okay, 5 times out of 10 or 8 times out of 10, it'll probably be okay.
Yeah.
But there's 2 people. It's like, when you go into surgery and you're like, look, the chances of you dying today are like 1 in a million. I'm like, so you're telling me one person's died? Great.
There's a billion people in the world.
Yeah, that's right. There's still 200,000 people have died from this surgery. It's not even tonsils, but there's a chance.
The big thing I think that's overlooked probably out of all of it is what's their perception of their home. If you're in a 500 square metre home, one, you don't even know what 500 square metres is. You don't even know the rental house you live in, what size that is. So you go into a display home that's 500 square metres, or just if that's the way that they're selling it and you're buying a 200 square metre home, what does that look like?
Yeah.
I know you guys, for example, go to homes the size that you're actually selling with the specifications. So you're walking through and going, this is exactly what you're getting. The specifications, colours differ, and this is the house size. Is this comfortable? Is this going to be enough for your family?
Yeah.
And I think that's the reality. You know, that perception and reality is two different things for them, where they're seeing this $500,000 house, but they're buying 500 square metre home versus 200 square metres. Big difference. And I think that's the, for them, if they know that's what they're getting, and then they can choose to upgrade. Like, honey, we know we want this. They can see what they're missing when they walk into that home, that you've already included everything for them. I think that's huge for them as well.
100%. Yeah, definitely.
And so you guys do that. You guys take clients through real life examples.
Big time, yeah. We map out their floor plans for them from start to finish. Obviously, explain all the specs through what's included. Obviously, what's not included, what's high spec, what's not high spec, everything from top to bottom, just to give them
things that are under construction as well.
Really transparent approach. Because a lot of people won't take them through the real product, because a lot of the time
it's easy not to.
Yeah, exactly. It's easier to take them through the perfect display home, but if what you see is what you get. Must make the clients.
We've had clients go out to blocks and spray paint their floor plan on the block prior to it, and send us updated photos of it. So we're very hands on. We'll do everything hands on and take them out there step by step.
You even have a client that started an Instagram page. Like, they really follow every step of the journey too. It's massive.
It is, because like you said, like, this is, obviously some people don't know that this is potentially something that they can achieve. So when they do achieve it and it's really realistic, then things start getting exciting. So we start getting the chalk out and start mapping out the floor plans.
Yeah, you can imagine.
And how big is that? You're giving them a choice of designs on the same block, and they can see the measurements they're going to have as a backyard. Or is this one better suited on this block? Yeah. Do you want more side access, so we'll design a skinnier, longer house? Or do you want a wider designed home to make it shorter, to give you the rear backyard? There's so many things they're not, but you point those out as professionals, like, these are things you need to look at. They would never have thought of that.
Never, and that's why, like, working with good builders, who obviously Pivotal Homes.
You know what?
I had to say that, give that $10 over. Working with good builders.
This is brought to us by Quench Water. Quench your thirst.
But having good builders on a panel that have those kind of options in terms of multiple floor plans and stuff like that, it definitely makes our job easier, so we can provide that option for the clients.
Yeah, they need a range of options.
It must also remove a lot of that, like, buyer's remorse. I know, I'm sure that would. I'm sure you get phone calls. You've just put an EOI down or whatever, and then Mary calls you like, I don't think I want to do it anymore, Reece or Adam. I think this is maybe too much. But actually going through the house must take a lot of that fear out of it, because they're like, is it going to be? Is it going to be? It's all the objections or all the reasons, all the scared points are already addressed, and if they're comfortable with it, then they're going to be comfortable with it when they wake up the next morning.
I think everyone gets buyer's remorse in some way, whether it's buying a chocolate milk down at the shop or a house. But I think when we help someone and take the expression of interest, for example, and they pay their initial deposit, we will generally follow up with them the next day, reiterate exactly what we've gone through in terms of getting the expression of interest and why we're getting into the market, the reasons with the step-by-step process. We touch base with them every couple of days after that.
And the big thing is you've educated them before they've ever made that decision.
That's right.
So if you understand exactly what you're doing and you've thought about it and had a plan the whole time before making that decision, there's going to be a lot less remorse, because you go, I definitely know this is 100% the right decision. And especially you guys take them out to different options. Here's a location here, here's a different location. Which one's going to suit better? You've actually bounced everything off them as well to make them feel more comfortable.
And that's why, setting the expectations up front as well.
And that's why sitting down with them and going through everything step by step and going through the whole process and finding out truly what their situation is at that time, and then providing them, they're choosing the options at the end of the day. We're just providing them. So we're just providing multiple options tailored to their kind of situation. So all they need to do is obviously just pick it, and then we'll just provide the best that's currently on the market.
And do you see a lot of people, like, because we touched on it briefly about the realestate.com ad, and again it's another one of those traps and pitfalls that people make, and they see, if you drive through the M1 right now, there's a certain builder, maybe one of the biggest in Australia, has from 149,000 or whatever it is, or 99,000 or some ridiculous price. And you just think to yourself, like, from in the industry, I'm like, I wonder how many people drive past that and say, look at this, 140, how good is this? But it's not realistic. Obviously, that's a very, very, it's not false advertising. I'm not going to sit here and say it's false, but it's a very scaled back,
you might get your frames.
Yeah,
really
exactly.
rough.
You end
Yeah.
up with a matchbox with a roof on
Yeah.
it. But that's fine because that's that's what you pay for or whatever. But it's got to be careful of a lawsuit there. No, just kidding. But what people don't like, a lot of people try and cut corners, I suppose, and go down the cheaper alternative, but it's actually going to cost them a lot more in the long run. And that whole advertised price thing isn't necessarily what's out there.
No, and I think
Well, you got caught with it, didn't you?
once we compare the apples with apples in terms of getting that $149,000 home up to the quality of the product that we provide our clients, and then we can compare apples with apples. Yeah, it's all well and it's all said and done at that stage, then, isn't it?
And that's the most important part, like comparing two things that need to be the same. Like it's no good comparing an apple and orange because
Correct.
It's just, the thing that I often used to hear with clients sometimes, like, okay, we've got a similar price to, we've looked at other options, they do their own research. It's near the same price, theirs might be $5,000 cheaper. Oh, but the builder didn't include landscaping or fencing because they said that's about $2,000. No one's doing it for $2,000.
Yeah.
That's just to make it look cheaper, so they haven't included it. But what I explain to clients as well, which a lot of people overlook, is right now they're renting. Normally, before the interest rates drop, your rent would be a lot cheaper than to buy the home, right, per week. So you're saving money. But you can always choose when to save. When you've got a mortgage and you move into the property, you've got a mortgage every week. You can't just save up $15,000 to finish off the home straight away. It's going to take you longer than that. So when they say they're going to do their turf next week or in 2 months' time, you drive there 12 months later, and a lot of these covenants give you timelines to do it in.
Yeah.
The pressure's on. So there's a different, it's better off, I believe it's better off getting it all done at once. And two, the builder that does volume with that landscaper pays $2,000 to get it done where you'd pay $4,000 or $5,000.
Yeah.
Any client that's ever removed it from us, every time comes back and go, I got quotes, can't beat it.
Yeah.
For what the credit is. And, that's a small thing about you choose when to save. There's a different, they're not owning a mortgage yet, so they don't understand. If it is extra money, right now it's different because it's obviously costs you the same or less. But, I think that's overlooked a lot of the time as well.
Yeah, and even with that landscaping thing, it might say there's a certain square meterage that they're gonna landscape, and then they leave the rest out, and they think they're winning again.
Yeah. I looked. I got my patch of grass when I was 18. I was wrapped. I got 45 square meters.
And the letterbox at the front.
Yeah, I got the letterbox in the backyard. Was just dirt for the kids. It was great. But you learn, and that's why.
That's another prime example of what they call you, Tom. Just kidding. Ruthless. Hey, but what Tom mentioned in there as well is that the mindset change that buying a house can do to people as well. It can really, your good mate Michael Purcell said it. He's not a great saver, but will he make his mortgage repayment every single time? Absolutely, and it really does change people's mindset and gets them in a mindset to make that commitment and own that right, I suppose, to be a homeowner.
Yep.
Certainly. 100%. So, but the other thing I want to talk about here, I've got on my notes here, is the old adage, champagne taste on a beer budget, and I think that's where a lot of people come unstuck as well as, and we mentioned it briefly earlier in the episode, but they have this expectation. I think it comes back to the whole instant gratification or the instant, the success. They want to put up the house in Camp Hill, on Instagram, or they want to have the ultimate Facebook story or whatever. But it's having that champagne taste, or they've watched the block and they've seen,
what you can do in 3 months.
Yeah, exactly, exactly right.
Yeah.
And it's just not realistic, is it?
Definitely not, no. And that's the hardest thing. Like we touched on it before, managing expectations. And I was guilty of getting caught too much emotionally in with the clients for that matter, and trying to do the best I possibly could. Surely that's, in terms of their situation, and it might not mean that getting them into the right area or getting them the Taj Mahal for that matter is going to work, because obviously we're limited to what we can spend from the banks for that matter. But yeah, it's hard. You've got to, and that's where, it's our job to kind of pull out a little bit in terms of pull away from the emotional side of things and not get so invested in trying to do the best possible in every certain area that we can. So,
because ultimately they'll just miss out on buying.
Correct. And
unless you can give them a roadmap and go, okay, we need 3 months to get your situation right. But ultimately, if it's just, the reality is you're $200,000 from servicing that, you can't afford it. Yep. You're happy, both happy in your jobs. You're not being, going up in wages anytime soon. There has to be some compromise.
It is, and that's why knowing areas and knowing price points in areas and being able to go, look, well, that's what this area is for entry. Do you have this saved this is where we're at right now. So maybe these areas are going to be better for you, and managing that side of things. And that can kind of bring down expectations in terms of a location, because I find that location's the hardest bit of it.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to be in the prime location for minimal.
Yeah, we all want to live in Bulimba.
Exactly
Yeah.
right, you know what I mean? So
Like,
it's...
with the champagne and beer budget, I find 10 odd years ago when I was helping first home buyers, it was, an empty shell. So I
Yeah.
just think with a flooring allowance of
Yeah.
$4,000 and a $1,500 allowance for your window treatments, but no stone,
Yeah.
no underbench sink, no range hood, no carpets with underlay, no
Yeah.
shower screens, no hobless showers, no shower
Leases,
recesses,
yeah.
and 1,200 front doors. There's none of that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you turn the clock today, and when we're going out and providing our clients these packages at 300,000 or 600,000, the quality of the inclusions now are just absolutely phenomenal compared to what we were selling,
Yeah.
5 years ago, 10 years ago.
Well, they've got to be, because as you said, everyone's watching the block and they
That's
see
amazing.
that pendant lighting. Like, well,
Yeah.
I wouldn't dare live in a house without pendant lights.
No.
That's their attitude.
You're always in
That's
the kitchen
mentality.
cooking, I know. You want to see your food.
I'm the
Yeah.
Jamie Oliver of bloody, Southport.
But no, it's good. I think that what the clients expect these days in terms of what's included is definitely up its game, because the market is so competitive
Yeah.
with builders these
Yeah.
days. And I guess the price to have these inclusions have reduced a lot. It's amazing. So that when we go to bed at night, go to sleep at night, we know the client's getting in with a really top quality product.
And you've got to, because we found, funny enough, like one of the biggest things we did a heap of research and development on our specification 2 odd years ago, and wanted to look at the market and see where I suppose the industry standard was, and we were at the industry standard. We're doing it just like everybody else. But one of the big changes that we made was the inclusion of USB power points. And to be quite frank, they're like $30 extra than a normal PowerPoint, like nothing. And then
No
you do,
difference off your bottom line.
and then you do, but every single person that walks through our display, like our run home or one of our homes, is like, USB, I'll take the wall charger out and I'll plug it. Like, how good is this? And it's those little things there, because a lot of the time they haven't had that luxury. Like, I've still never lived in a house with USB power points. Look, I think that would be cool. Like,
Good
don't
point
get me
of
wrong.
conversation, yeah,
exactly
100%.
right. But it's those little intricate points of details, I think, from our point, but obviously your point as well, when you're looking at a builder's house or standard level specification, to see what sort of level of detail, how intricate are these guys. If they're including little things like that, then then they're up to trend with the latest and what's going on.
900 appliances,
Correct.
like even the 1,200 wide front doors. And people might look at it in a different way, but I've had this constantly: is look how wide the front door is, honey. I can get me furniture in.
That's a big
So
deal. Yeah,
It's
exactly.
a good talking point.
Yeah,
it's
exactly
it's
right.
literally it. So these little things that you've got to be cued onto, and more importantly, we have to be switched on to what that client is looking for. These things 100% help.
Yeah. And a client's point of view, if the clients know that you're that attention to detail so big on the small things, obviously it's a good sign for them.
Yep.
They're thinking of the USB power points, the pendant lighting, the large front doors.
You're tailoring,
all adds up.
and you're tailoring it to more of a hands-on kind of approach, or kind of, I guess, build for that matter as well, because they do get a say in certain things. But like even your gas point to your fresco, like a lot of people forget that, but when you really, really think about it, barbecues outside.
Oh,
it's so
nothing
strange.
worse. You're midway through a steak and it runs out. I got to finish
This
it
happened
on
on
a
Friday.
man.
This happened on Friday night. I bought the gas bottle for my new Weber. I've had it there since I moved in. I've been there for 18 months. It's still gone. I'm midway cooking a steak. My family's over. So this is the only time I have visitors, right?
2 years.
And I've got
you wait for someone to come over.
3 steaks on, and it just dies halfway through, and I'm like,
I can't show me face inside.
but perfect example, right? It was
That's
plugged to
it.
the wall. She doesn't stop going. And it's a small thing of
It
like
is.
renters not having to do that. They can plug straight in the wall and have access, and it's convenient for them.
Yeah, it's
No.
the dream home quality specs is what we're
Yeah.
finding these days.
Yeah.
Dream home quality specs, but in a stepping stone.
But
for
because if you
themselves.
don't deliver that, the chances are someone else will.
Yep.
That's what we found. Like if we do not up our game, I'm sure with you guys, if you're constantly not the best in what you're doing or striving to be the best, then someone will do it. There's no doubt about it. Like someone will outbeat you one day unless you continually go hard.
And there's too much access
Yeah.
not for that not to happen.
Correct.
So that's
Yeah.
why you've got to be totally on the ball with these little things that people disregard sometimes. So
Yeah. And then you have your client, like one of the clients that we handed over, you went to one of the houses that we finished for you the first time. It's the quality of the home being finished is the clients that get blown away. And those clients left us one of the best reviews that we've ever seen.
Yeah.
but the quality of the home and the fittings that we have as a standard. But they were even you guys seeing it for the first time, it makes a big difference for them and their families going over to what they're actually receiving. Like I seen the home that you showed them. I didn't think it'd look like that, even though they've seen it. They have their own house built in that same exact standard.
And that was the best thing about obviously taking that hands-on approach, is we were
Yeah.
able to go through the display for that matter and explain to them and map out what they were getting on their block. So we were able to go through every single detail possible in terms of specs, layout of the floor plan, and then when they got there, when there was handover, they walked in like they'd already been in there. They knew what they were getting. They understood it. It wasn't like a shock to them that they were going to get, like 60 squares smaller, or they didn't think that was what it was going to be. So it's definitely...
With that particular client, it helped quite a lot with the communication from the builders in you guys throughout the process. The builder continuously updating the client week after week, whether it's the builder or whether it's us updating them and telling them exactly where things are up to, makes a huge difference. So that by the time Keyhand gets over there, they know exactly what's going on. They've got the remove list ready to go. Yeah. The furniture getting delivered and they're moving straight in.
And I'm sure you guys are great advocates for this as well. But, no matter how good the start of the process is, and look, the house may be the best house in Australia, but if it's such a scary thing when you're building a house or you're buying a house, particularly when you're going through something like COVID-19, right, when the rest of the world's falling apart and then you've got a house midway, you've really got to be, but not just through COVID, but all the times, it's going to make or break the whole experience. If they feel lost or whatever, that has that negative perception of the whole experience, and you're not going to get referrals, obviously. So you guys are obviously drilling whoever you're using, your builders or anything, just trying to finance brokers, update us. Yeah. Because you need to hold the client's hand, through that whole process.
It's like when you go and have a good dinner, you'll tell one person if you've had a good dinner somewhere. If you have a bad dinner, you'll tell 10 people.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Same thing in the building game.
Yeah.
We got to make sure we're there to hold their hand every step of the way and catch them when they fall.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, they're gonna, have a bad experience and tell somebody else had a bad experience as well.
And as technology changes and technology and software is being used to talk to them more, you have to be more advanced and develop down that road.
Got to.
Because the expectation is there then, because they're used to getting it from every other platform.
Yeah.
Used to an Uber and it turns up and you can track it. That's why people don't catch taxis, because they can't see where it's at.
And now you get left behind. That's where, hasn't been released yet, but we've been working on a portal and a software system to track the clients non-stop at every step of the way. Breaking news.
You waiting for that?
Yeah. No, we're not there. We're about we're there, nearly there. But once again, we just have to look at it, because we were talking about the specs 2 years ago. Me and Hayden sat down and looked at it. Once again, we're looking at it and going, where's the future? It's not that big now, but we're seeing it creep up. How do we be ahead in 12, 24 months when then it's not a problem?
Yeah.
It's not an expectation by then.
And
now things are already warning signs like, okay, we need to step certain parts up all the time.
And that's it. And we hope, me and Adam hope always, when it gets to that stage when they are building, that our relationship with our clients, we're basically friends. Yeah. And that's where it should be, really, so they don't feel bad to call us at any time, which we'll get calls all nights of the morning or whatever.
Reece takes all the calls.
So that's what we kind of strive to do, is it gets to that point that they can just pick up and just call us, and that's why we can just give you guys
trust.
Exactly, 100%. Yeah.
And so, guys, we've got to start to wrap this up. But so, parting words, your biggest sort of tips right now for someone looking at buying a house, apart from obviously visiting, chatting to you guys, Quit Renting Queensland. But what would you say to someone out there looking to purchase, a bit lost? What would you do? What would you say?
Do your research, 100%. I think obviously don't just rush into and don't get caught emotionally into it. Don't rush into the decision. Actually have a look. Prepare for it for 3 months, 12 weeks, 100%. Clean up the stuff on your finance side of things and get ready, and have a good understanding of where you're looking and what you can purchase, and do your research on your areas 100%.
Yeah, being ready for the opportunity.
Yeah.
100%.
And because people they get, like I said earlier, they get caught up in the, if you don't buy this, you'll never buy anything, and that whole pressure, type thing. But I mean, Jack Corbett earlier in the season explained it well. Like, opportunities are like London buses. They'll come and go, and every 15 minutes there'll be another one come. So get ready, get prepared, and get ready to fire the shots when you need them. Don't fire early.
Fail to prepare or prepare to fail.
There we go.
Thanks, Denzel.
Thought I'd exit.
We might as well cut it there. I want him to do the outro. It was so good to get. No, boys, how do people get in contact with you guys? What's the best way?
You can visit us on our website, www.quitrentingqueensland.com. our Facebook page, Quit Renting Queensland, or our Instagram handle, Quit Renting Queensland.
Quit Renting
as well.
Queensland. Boys, thank you so much for coming
Thanks
on.
for
Really,
having
really
us.
appreciate it.
Gentlemen.
Thank you very
Thanks for
much
having
for
us.
watching Everything Property. Today's guests have been Quit Renting Queensland, Adam Standage and Reece Purcell. You can visit their website, www.quitrentingqueensland.com. No .au, just .com. Facebook, all the socials, Quit Renting Queensland. That is it for now. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. But until next time, we'll see you later. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.